I'm Rick Wilson, a social scientist in the Department of Political Science at Rice University. Not everyone gets a chance to build a house from scratch. My wife Therese and I did so 11 years ago. At that time, green building was a new concept, and we liked everything about it. We decided to build a green home that would enable us to minimize our carbon footprint. While it's not possible for others to do exactly what we did, we learned a lot that might help others contemplating something similar. We started with some general sketches of what we wanted in a house and looked for an architect who had the skills and interest to work with us. I hadn't given much thought to a green architect, thinking it was too expensive, but Therese had. Eventually we settled on a local architect, Laverne Williams, who got his start building straw bale houses. He took our rough ideas and immediately improved them. I was won over to the idea of building a green house, and as we became involved, I was happy to find out that building sustainably was not necessarily more costly. From the outset, we had a couple of principles in mind. Minimize the cost while using simple local materials where possible, and promote harmony between the indoors and the outdoors. After months of searching, we found 2 acres inside Houston city limits. What had formerly been pasture was now a 25-year-old mix of both native and invasive scrub and trees. We loved it. Our friends thought we were out of our minds. We had a vision that began with preserving as many trees as possible, so we carefully cut out a driveway and space for the footprint of the house. The trees that were removed were chipped on site and broadcast over parts of the property where they helped create the richest soil anywhere on the property. The foundation is very deep and rests on even deeper piers. The top surface of the foundation is our actual floor. The depth of the foundation helps mediate the temperature inside year-round. Well, all this concrete called for a cement bumper, which reaches over the top of the trees. A proportion of the cement in the mix was replaced with fly ash. The soil that was dug out for the foundation was used to build berms along the street to help reduce noise. As building got underway, we considered many alternatives for materials, with a strong preference for local and simple. The exterior walls are framed with 2x6s, which allows for much more insulation, in this case spray-in Icynene foam. Though the downstairs is relatively small at around 1,600 square feet, the north side of the house is almost 40 feet high. The second floor is a horseshoe-shaped balcony with just half a wall all around. This gives the house an extremely airy feel and helps tremendously with the cooling. The roof is supported by I-beams, which in turn are supported by beams bolted to the tops of steel poles embedded in the foundation. On the highest wall, near the top, are 3 large vents. As the day warms up, the hotter air rises to the ceiling. Late in the day, even in the summer, we can open the vents manually. The hot air streams out the vents, and when we open windows downstairs, we have a lovely breeze as the cooler air is pulled in. We also have a whole house fan. This operates on the same principle as the vents, pushing hot air out. While these were common in many Houston homes before central air, by opening windows on the ground floor, we can suck the air out of the house in 20 minutes by running the fan. Well, this is perfect on those still summer nights. The roof is standing seam galvanized steel that reflects light and has an optimal pitch for installing solar panels. These were too costly an investment when we built the house. The doors and windows use double-paned glass to provide thermal and noise insulation. The exterior walls are made from locally produced cement board and provide substantial protection from the elements. A major part of what keeps the house comfortable is that it utilizes a passive solar design. In our case, this means no windows at all for the west side. Windows on the south side are small and have built-in eyebrows that shade them from the direct sunlight. The largest bank of windows, upstairs and down, face north and allow plenty of indirect light and a view of our little forest. The windows and large doors on the east side are shaded by elm, oak, and hackberry trees, and also have eyebrows. For added structural support, there's a steel trellis covered with American wisteria, coral honeysuckle, and sweet autumn clematis. The vines provide additional protection from the sun during the summer mornings. The one problem we've had with all these wonderful windows is that birds fly into them. We tried UV stickers shaped like maple leaves. Well, they didn't work very well. We tried not washing the windows for years, which worked okay. Birds fly into glass because the reflection of the surrounding trees looks like, well, trees to them. But the unwashed windows were unattractive. Eventually, we found a company that makes UV tape that you stick on glass for this very problem. We tried a couple of versions, but eventually settled on 1/4 inch wide tape spaced about 2 inches apart. The effect is like jalousie windows, easy to see out of, attractive, and we've had 0 bird strikes in the years since applying them. And, better, we can wash our windows again. We decided early on to do most of our own interior work, partly because we thought we'd enjoy it, and partly because it's much cheaper than paying others to do it. We found a local source for formaldehyde-free plywood, and we were off. While there's a bit of a learning curve, we both got to be pretty good carpenters. We painted the inside and the outside of the house and learned a lot about scaffolding. Of course, none of this happened overnight. We've spent many years working on the house and believe in our motto. Being involved in the building was a wonderful experience and gave us a lifetime supply of stories. For example, the staircase was rebuilt twice due to city code problems. We saved all the removed stair treads, and I turned them into a top of a major workbench. Everyone thought that the cement foundation would be just a subfloor to be covered up, but no, we wanted it as our main floor downstairs. At the time, it was too expensive to have it polished, but once we acid stained it black, it looked great. Upstairs, we had tongue and groove 2x6 East Texas yellow pine for flooring. We sanded it down and then coated it with a 50-50 mix of tung oil and orange oil, both natural. The house smelled like oranges for weeks. But the floor is tough, the lumber is local, and it's aged beautifully. For the first 5 years living in the house, we almost never used air conditioning. We spent a good deal of time trying to figure out how to live most comfortably with this house. Later, we invested in solar panels. The price had dropped, and we ended up with a system with 30 panels that's enough to provide about 80% of our electrical usage. We now run both air conditioning and heating over the course of the year, but there are many months when we never use either. Building the house was only part of our goal. We wanted to manage the mini forest for birds and other local fauna. The main problems were thousands of Chinese tallow trees, thousands of Chinese glossy leaf privet, and Japanese privet. These 3 were so thick in some places that much of the property had nothing at all growing on the ground, and there were next to no birds. Well, we've made huge strides and learned a lot about forestry along the way. Most of the huge old tallow trees are either gone or standing dead snags that we leave for woodpeckers and flickers. We're a regular stop for migratory birds and have a good-sized population of locals, mainly blue jays, cardinals, doves, mockingbirds, and various hawks. We also hear lots of birds we never see, so we can't identify. We focused on keeping water on our property. Our driveway was built with urbanite, crushed concrete. This meant the drive was permeable. We also bought and installed a 5,000 and a 3,000 gallon cistern to collect rainwater off the roof. That water is used for gardening and filling a pond. We built a smallish pond with the idea that if you build it, they will come. It's now a major hub for wildlife throughout the property. Now that we have plenty of water, we added a vegetable garden. This was not built all at once, but we gradually figured out the best siting, the best approach to building beds, and integrating the water system. We did introduce some non-natives onto the property, chickens. They're wonderful for keeping the ground stirred up, keeping the insect population down, and eating whatever starts growing out of the ground. Their coop is designed not so much to keep the chickens in, but to keep everyone else out. These days we have a full complement of raccoon, possums, hawks, and coyotes. Everyone loves chicken. Finally, we've made huge progress eliminating the invasives. All that glossy leaf privet, including the stuff that makes up the hedges around rice, gets pulled up. Tallow trees were dominant at the outset, but we've banded many of them. They die, we fell them and cut them up and then stack them. This has created a lot of critter hotels, mice, snakes, rabbits, toads, frogs, and lizards. The stacked logs are full of nursery holes made by various invertebrates. All in all, we're seeing life come back to the property. It turns out that building green involves more than just a house. It means attention to your surroundings as well. With informed planning, it's not so hard, nor is it expensive. But, as with everything wonderful, it takes time.